So, what does fighting this close or this far away have in common? Short chain energy. Now, the reason I say fighting at that long distance requires short chain energy is because you may be required to go beyond the reach of your arm to the point where you're just flicking with the hips, or you may be finding that if you're playing a game, and I say playing a game because in a predatory type circumstance you won't be playing this game, but you may have somebody at arm's reach thinking that they're out of range, but a slight flick with a torque of the hips and shoulders in fact gives you that little bit to nudge them. You need to learn how to be able to use that short chain power, and I say short chain on purpose because you're using a very small torque, a very small amount of motion. If I'm in right here and I have to use just little tags, that's okay. These are not knockout strikes, but they may be strikes that buy you time to line up your range to something a little more effective. The best fighters can land knockouts at the very extremes of their range. It is important to be able to fight at all ranges. It is important to be able to fight all the way out at the tips of your fingers and beyond, and it is important to be able to fight this close into somebody. Now, when I say knockout power, do I literally mean, being able to knock somebody out with such a short movement? Well, yes and no, but mostly yes, but sometimes no. You have to understand that there's no guarantee of a knockout in any circumstance. There's no magic button. There are places where we know that are particularly vulnerable due to being soft, filled with nerve clusters and whatnot that increase the chance. But you never know what's going to happen. I mean, you get hit in the head with a baseball bat and you don't go down. The next thing you know, you get flicked in the eyeball and you are down and out for a week. Depending on the lightness of a tap, and the eyeball example was a bad example, but in Savate they have a punch. It's called the swing punch, and it comes around, starts like a hook, but then it pops around the guard and flicks in. It's really meant for behind the ear, really in the mastoid complex. A light tap circumventing the guard and hitting the back there can make somebody see stars, or worse, knock them out. It's a very nerve-dense area, it's a very vulnerable area, and the brain's general reaction to trauma there, regardless of force, is shock and seizure and unconsciousness. So you have to understand that it is important to be able to deliver power from all ranges. And understand that most fights don't happen at this range. Most fights happen at this range. And if you're not skilled at grappling, you need to be able to strike. If you're not skilled at striking, you need to be able to grapple. You need to be able to fight in that range. And when I say grapple, I don't mean pull guard and try to armbar the guy. Do you really, really think that in a non-sport, non-laboratory setting that you were going to have the latitude to pull a nice, clean armbar on somebody? Maybe. It's not realistic though. It's really not realistic. So understand that while you can manipulate joints, that you have to change things from the sports setting, from the dojo setting, to a more functional real-world setting. And that being the case, you do really have to learn how to execute power at the very extremes of your range. I use the arms as an example, but you should be able to do the same with the kicks. You should be able to do the same with shoulder butts, elbows, knees, head butts. Whatever your tools are, you should be able to execute power with a very short chain at both extremes of your range. It's simple as that. Talk to you guys later. Good journey.